and welcome to Sports Sound Off. My name's Randy Adkins, I'm your host, and our guest this evening is Barry Smith, former FSU, Green Bay Packer, Tampa Bay Buccaneer wide receiver.
You got it.
All right, well, welcome. Good having you.
Happy to be here.
Well, we're looking forward to having some great conversation about sport tonight. For those that have been following this conversation, feel free to jump in with any calls, any comments, any questions. We're going to spend a little time talking about Barry's experiences, and then we're going to go from there. Now, you from Miami and went to Florida State University.
The Florida State.
The Florida State University. And that was pre-Bowden, so we're not talking about how was that experience, and it juxtaposed to as a guy who's gone back, who's in a Florida State University Hall of Fame, and seeing post Bobby Bowden. How's that experience different?
My 4 years up at in Tallahassee, Florida State, were just magic. I mean, I had a tremendous, had a really a nice career, had a great education, met some wonderful people. The women were exceptionally good-looking at Florida State. One of the reasons that I went there, but.
Ratio was what, 4 or 5 to 1?
It was 4 to 1. Yeah, it was 4 to 1.
So,
you know, I had some different choices, but ultimately I decided to go to Florida State because of the passing offense. And really the passing offense at the time was led by a guy named Bill Peterson, which, as a matter of fact, this weekend they're having a 50-year reunion of the Bill Peterson era players.
Oh, that's great.
So I'm looking forward to that.
That's cool.
Yes.
All right. Now, how are you involved today? I know that your son didn't go to Florida State.
Nope. Georgia Tech.
Did that break your heart?
No, not really. I'm one of those that I think that that he had to go and find his own way, so to speak, instead of, you know, to follow in somebody's footsteps. To me, it wouldn't be fair. He went to Georgia Tech, again, got a great education, lettered 4 years, and had a great career there. I'm very involved with the program. You know, from a booster standpoint, my wife and I have donated, you know, substantially to the university. We're active in the university. The FSU Varsity Club is a great organization that we've worked together to bring in new members that have raised more money to the program. And been very active with, you know, Bobby Bowden through the years.
Right.
You know, Bobby, there's no question that he put FSU in the major leagues.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Bill Peterson put FSU on the map, but then Bobby Bowden took it to the next level. And what he did for the 14 years is just incredible. The amount of victories and the top 4 finishes in the country and the 2 national championships was phenomenal. I mean, he is an icon. You know, he and Paterno and Bear Bryant, those guys are the icons of football.
Right.
But it's a new era now. You know,
Sure.
we got a new era, and Jimbo Fisher's there, and we're 2-1.
Yeah, well, winning football game. What do you think Coach Bowden's legacy is going to be? The fact that he put you in the major leagues and you had the 11, 12 bowl games in a row and all those kinds of things?
Well, you know what? I think his legacy is one, let's say, talk about the man outside of football. Because he really was a father figure to a lot of the football players.
Right.
And I think there's so many players that he is, let's say, that have played in at the National Football League that have gone on to greatness, all these All-Americans. But really the man outside of football, I mean, he's a coach, and he's a wonderful coach, but what he did to me outside of football with not only the players but various charities and his convictions speaks volumes.
All right. So let's see. Let's finish up your career a little bit here. You were drafted first round, 21st pick, right?
In the 1973 draft
All right.
by the
Went
Green
to
Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers. Now, you're a Florida guy from Miami who goes to FSU, and then you go to Green Bay. Is that a culture shock, weather shock?
I can honestly tell you I had never seen snow until I got to Green Bay.
Okay.
I was not wild about it, but it's something you learn to tolerate. One, the Green Bay Packer fans are phenomenal fans, very educated fans. They're wonderful people out there. They know how to tailgate. They wrote the book on tailgating.
Right. Oh,
I mean,
absolutely.
Brats. Absolutely.
I mean,
the brats and the beer, and they can party. And I enjoyed very much to play for a team that had that type of tradition and history.
Right.
Because it's like, there isn't anything better. I mean, I love to go back to Lambeau. I go back occasionally. And when you see the teams and the players and the history, then I'm part of that. And I'm very proud of that.
Well, that's cool. I mean, you know, and then you came here to Tampa Bay to be one of the founding Buccaneers.
Yes.
And that had to be really exciting.
Yeah, you know, actually, I wanted to come to Tampa, one, because I'd spent 3 years up in Green Bay, and I really wasn't wild. I wasn't wild about the cold weather. I had a chance to come down here because I had played for John McKay in the 1972. Actually, it would have been the 1973 College All-Star game.
Okay.
That he was the head coach.
All right.
And went
All
up,
right.
started, and played
All
for
right.
him and all that stuff, and met a lot of the coaches. So I saw that he was the head coach down here, and I talked to Bart Starr, and because they had the player draft thing,
Right.
and I said, don't know what your plans are for me, but I'd like to head south. So, anyways, I wound up coming to Tampa.
Now, see, my impression of Coach McKay, just from interviews, I mean, I remember the famous line, he's asked about, what do you think about your offensive performance? And he
Yep.
says, I'm all for it.
I'm all for it.
Was he like that in practice? Was he?
Yeah, you know what? McKay was, there's no question, he had a quick wit and he was great with the one-liners. The 76 year was a very difficult year. And actually, there's a number of the guys that played on that team. A lot of careers ended in 1976 because we were so bad. But then, a lot of careers also started. Leroy Selman was the first player ever drafted. He was
Right.
a teammate of mine, still a very dear friend. And there's so many guys that are, the Mark Cotneys and the Jimmy Duboses, and there's, they're just, it was a lot of fun. But at the same time, to lose 14 games was very difficult.
It has to be tough.
Very difficult.
Competitive guys that are used to winning and used to being successful, and
Yes.
you're getting beat to death.
Yes, but to go back and tell you, there's reasons why I can tell you. Some people don't realize that, nowadays when the players come to camp, they spend maybe about 2 weeks of two-a-day practices. You maybe have
Right.
heard that name.
Yeah, sure.
And they really treat them as a whole different level. When we went to camp that year, McKay, we were in 2 days for 10 weeks.
For 10
And a lot of
weeks,
people
you
don't
guys are
realize
worn
that.
out.
And let me tell you, and that's exactly one of the reasons we were in, because back then they didn't have as many restrictions. Now, through the collective bargaining agreements, you
Right.
can, only do so many things. We had 10 weeks of 2 days because we were a new franchise. By the time we actually had a scrimmage, the beginning of the week of the very first league game, regular season league game. It's
Wow.
unheard of.
That's amazing.
We had a lot of guys that got injured early during that never wound up actually participating during the regular season.
Wow.
And so I think that's one of the reasons that made it a little more difficult for us to win games.
Yeah.
But
Now let me ask you this. We're talking about, the 76 team and that era and those types of things. There's been a lot of talk about the 79 Bucks, probably the first group to really break through.
Yep.
And some of the health issues, some of the things going on, Jerry Eckwood being in an ALF, that kind of thing.
Richard Batman Woods.
Batman Wood not doing all those. What's your take on that as a player of that era?
Well, I'm nearing my 60th birthday here in January, and I look back now. They're doing all these studies on concussions,
Right.
and being a wide receiver, I can tell you, I had a ton of concussions. When you play on bad teams, you get knocked out.
You get hit a little
more.
bit, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
you do. And I am concerned. The studies. What's the difference between a linebacker getting hitting receivers, or
Right.
hitting running backs, and and everybody banging heads, in a boxer? Look
Right.
at Muhammad Ali.
Right.
One of the
Exactly.
issues that he has, and
Right.
and I look at the helmet that I used to wear. It was a Rydell suspension helmet, the same. From high school, college, and pro. This little suspension helmet. I remember my son when he was playing the Jesuit, his very first year, and I'm looking at this helmet that I never played in anything anywhere near as good as that. So,
Wow. Okay.
yeah, there are concerns from the league standpoint of the player, because there are a lot of guys that gave it their all.
Sure.
And unfortunately, there are some programs that are not in place, and some of these guys are having health issues, and some of the expenses are phenomenal.
Sure.
And they can't work. They can't really even live a regular life.
Right.
And so I am concerned, and we need to do what's right to give something back.
Well, I want to give you the opportunity to talk about that, because that's something that certainly gentlemen that have given their lives and we've watched and enjoyed them, and you say, well, what's that cost them in terms of their quality of life and quantity of life, for that
Yes.
matter?